We are currently on a course toward an implosion. Everything changes all of a sudden if people lose faith in the currency. Everything changes if they don't trust the banking system. And our society is so complicated these days that we need the banks to work. We need the system that handles money to work. The system needs more and more money to pay interest on the debt. We owe $93 trillion, but just $20 trillion is real. That mismatch exists because we don't use money. That's the thing. If we were using actual money that required effort to obtain, and it was a tangible item that necessitated effort to produce, it would equate to the effort required for its purchase. If we used it, we wouldn't have this problem of having $93 trillion in debt and just $20 trillion to pay it off. So, if they can make a digital money for the central bank and persuade everyone to use it, you're stuck. They can use negative interest rates at that moment if there is no other option. Taxes keep going up so that we can pay all of this interest. Every year we have to borrow more and more money to keep the game running. The money that is made when you buy a house or when the Federal Reserve buys anything will eventually disappear. When you sign a loan contract, you borrow $1 million into existence. This is the money you spend to buy a property. It's accounting for the balance sheet. You put the money you owe into your bank account, pay the vendor, and then labor for 30 years to pay off the debt. For the first 15 years, most of what you pay is interest. For the previous 15 years, you've been buying a house, but when you pay down the principal on that loan, the money you expend to do so goes toward paying off the debt on the balance sheet, and the amount you owe goes reduced by a set amount. And that amount is money that has disappeared. So money is always being made, and then it goes away. People take out loans, pay them back, and take out more loans. When you pay off a loan, the money that was made when the loan was made goes away. Again, this is about a store of value. How can a dollar that comes and goes hold value? How can that be? It isn't. Right now, no country in the world uses money. But it's interesting that all of the world's central banks have gold on their balance sheets and that it's a tier 1 asset. Not all of them. For example, Canada doesn't have any, but it's a tier 1 asset, which means it's the safest, most secure, and most reliable asset. And the central banks of the globe are now buying more than ever. They are getting ready for something, but they are trying to make this process last as long as possible. China makes more gold than any other country. You can't send gold out of China. They also buy more gold than anyone else in the world. So they are the world's biggest gold producer and importer. Why? Because they are getting ready for something. If the world's money system starts to fall apart, trade used to connect the world. You know, all of the countries would go through recessions within a few years of each other, and trade brought it from one country to another. Today, they're all linked together by all of these derivatives and a financial system that works at the speed of light. So when one country sneezes, everyone else gets sick. And so it doesn't matter where this crisis starts, whether it's in Brazil or here. It looks like it already started here. We've already seen some very, very big banks fall. I think this is only the start of things. Senator John Kennedy, who is now the Senator John Kennedy, remarked on a prominent news channel that the banking system is simply a Ponzi scheme. And it doesn't work if everyone comes at once. Now you can take money out of your iPhone. USMS message, this bank might be in trouble, get your money out. There are true bank runs, and it illustrates how dishonest the money system is. That's one of the things it shows. You know, every country that has done quantitative easing has made prices go up. The Federal Reserve Act makes it hard for the Federal Reserve to do its job. The only way they can make money is by buying specific kinds of assets. The US government has to guarantee them for both the principal and the interest. The Federal Reserve Act stipulates they can buy US treasuries in order to get money for taxes in the future. I mean, it's right there. There are a lot of legal terms and phrases between these things. But what I perceive is that, sure, it's the bubble of practically everything. When you look around, you might wonder what has been pushed into a bubble by the increase in the money supply. For example, low interest rates pushed real estate into a bubble. They've raised the rates now. I'm frightened that we're moving into what I call the Bernanke bust. A lot of people have kind of forgotten about Ben Bernanke. One guy is to blame for all of this. I wrote my first book because I read a paper by Ben Bernanke. It's his 2002 speech called Deflation. Making sure that doesn't happen here. And if you look closely, you'll notice that he made a plan for everything he would do in the future. Once we hit the zero bound, you can't decrease interest rates anymore because consumers would just start withdrawing cash out of their accounts to keep their buying power. So when it comes to interest rates, there is only a zero bound level. He said in his address that the Fed still has choices even after they hit the zero bound. He also talked about quantitative easing in there. He suggested they could add things like mortgage-backed securities to the list of goods they bought. In 2008, they made a list of 10 things to do, and 7 of them actually got done. They haven't done the other 3 yet, but they will during the next crisis. But when they covered that up and didn't let the markets keep plunging until they were discounted, the stock market, according to PE ratios, reached fair value. And then they used QE to pump it back into a bubble. And then Powell put us in hyper bubbles. But Ben Bernanke's plans being put into action are what produced this bust. 99.9% of people don't know how the money system works, but people actually utilize 2 kinds of money. The banks make bank credit. Low interest rates are what made so much new money go into the real estate market. And then there's the money we use that is in circulation. The Federal Reserve also makes a different kind of basic currency, and that's the reserves of the banks. And that's a whole other money system that the public never sees, uses, or touches.